I represented a mother whose rich sister tried to steal her newborn twins by weaponizing her postpartum depression and selling them for $200,000 to her fertility clinic clients. After I exposed the conspiracy and got her arrested, she orchestrated a harassment campaign from jail, slashing tires, forging emails to get my client fired, filing false CPS reports, and eventually planning to kidnap the twins during a staged panic attack. She got 25 years in prison. I represented a new mother named Gracie, fighting to retain custody of her infant twins after her rich sister engineered an adoption scheme to take the children. Gracie battled postpartum depression following the premature birth of her twins, teaching school while her military husband served abroad when she suddenly faced legal action threatening to strip away her babies. Gertrude, her sister, was a calculating pharmaceutical executive residing in an exclusive neighborhood who operated a fertility practice, arriving at court flanked by adoption lawyers asserting Gracie was psychologically unfit and jeopardizing innocent children. My sister has displayed instability since adolescence, Gertrude stated without emotion. During my visits, the infants wailed incessantly due to obvious neglect, and she rejected all assistance. Gracie broke down in my office following the proceedings, barely able to speak. All I requested was assistance with food expenses, never for her to seize my babies. Her voice broke. Without them, I have no reason to continue. Gracie revealed that Gertrude had long harbored resentment over her marriage to someone below our social standing, had endured multiple pregnancy losses, and developed a fixation on Gracie's pregnancy, making frequent visits while recording each difficult moment. The evidence appeared overwhelming. Gertrude possessed photographs of disheveled living spaces, audio of infant distress, and statements from fertility clinic employees regarding Gracie's troubling psychological condition. Describe these visits in detail, I questioned. Were others present? Gracie's composure faltered while recounting. Gertrude arrived accompanied by Dr. Morrison from an adoption service, invariably when I was isolated and depleted, photographing everything under the guise of assistance. This information seemed significant. Was Dr. Morrison ever your actual physician? Absolutely not, Gracie replied. Yet Gertrude insisted she was assessing my capabilities, suggesting she could arrange a more suitable arrangement for the twins if I proved inadequate. I insisted on questioning Dr. Morrison independently, prompting fierce resistance from Gertrude's legal team, though I maintained these professional assessments required verification. Morrison presented as an anxious individual constantly checking her mobile device, visibly unsettled by straightforward inquiries. These infants require more than an unstable mother can provide, Morrison claimed. Gertrude simply prioritizes their welfare. Her narrative disintegrated when challenged. She failed to provide legitimate evaluation documents, confirmed she never treated Gracie professionally, and repeatedly mentioned financial arrangements. My investigation into Morrison's organization revealed Gertrude had transferred $50,000 labeled consulting services mere weeks prior to filing initial concerns. Most incriminating were text exchanges between Gertrude and Morrison, planning placement schedules, predating any alleged neglect observations. Confronted with financial records and message histories, Gertrude's facade cracked entirely. She'd committed the twins to clients from her fertility practice for $200,000, was embezzling placement fees, and required Gracie deemed incompetent before the scheme unraveled. "You cannot comprehend infertility's anguish," Gertrude shrieked. "Gracie received what I was denied." Unknown to her, I'd already contacted the intended adoptive couple, who reacted with horror upon discovering they'd participated in attempted child theft. They'd recorded Gertrude stating, "My sister wishes to surrender them, but requires convincing," and willingly provided testimony. During final proceedings, beyond presenting financial documentation, I exposed the calculated plot, fabricated psychological assessments, and communications where Gertrude called them my twins-to-be during Gracie's pregnancy. The judge spoke with trembling fury. "This court has witnessed numerous custody battles, but weaponizing postpartum depression to steal infants constitutes an unconscionable betrayal, and I'm forwarding this case to prosecutors for conspiracy to kidnap, defraud, and traffic human beings." While officers escorted Gertrude away, Gracie held her children and stated softly, "You proved that maternal bonds cannot be purchased, stolen, or counterfeited." Authorities later closed Morrison's operation and prosecuted both conspirators for fraud, while the fertility practice faced extensive litigation from other deceived couples. The weeks following Gertrude's arrest brought a false sense of peace. I filed the necessary paperwork to ensure the custody ruling remained ironclad, while Gracie focused on healing and caring for her twins. She moved through her days with newfound confidence, teaching her classes with renewed energy, and coming home to children who would never be taken from her. I checked in periodically, pleased to see her thriving. Then the first complaint arrived at my office. The State Bar Association forwarded a formal ethics complaint, alleging I had manufactured evidence in Gracie's case. The complainant remained anonymous, but the writing style and specific details pointed directly to Gertrude. Despite being held pending trial, she had apparently found ways to continue her campaign. The complaint accused me of coaching witnesses, falsifying financial records, and conspiring to frame an innocent woman for crimes she didn't commit. I spent hours preparing my response, gathering every document, email, and piece of evidence from the case. The complaint was baseless, but it would still require time, energy, and resources to defend. As I worked late into the evening assembling my defense, my phone buzzed with a text from Gracie. She was panicking. Her principal had called her into his office that afternoon to discuss concerning allegations about her fitness to teach. Someone had sent an anonymous letter to the school board claiming Gracie was mentally unstable, had abandoned her children multiple times, and posed a danger to her students. The letter included photos that appeared to show Gracie in various states of distress, though she couldn't identify when or where they were taken. I drove to Gracie's house immediately. She sat at her kitchen table, hands shaking as she showed me the principal's notes from their meeting. The twins slept peacefully in their cribs, unaware of the storm brewing around their mother once again. Over the next several days, the attacks escalated. Gracie's elderly parents received a package containing printed emails, supposedly from Gracie confessing to thoughts of harming her children. The emails were sophisticated forgeries, but convincing enough to send her mother into hysterics. Her father called demanding answers, his voice thick with confusion and fear. Anonymous calls began coming to Gracie's home at all hours, sometimes silence, sometimes breathing, occasionally a whispered voice saying the twins would be better off without her. She changed her number, but the calls found her new one within days. Her car tires were slashed while parked at the grocery grocery store, dead flowers appeared on her doorstep with notes about unfit mothers. I hired a private investigator to trace the harassment, though we both suspected the source. The investigator confirmed what we feared. While Gertrude herself remained in custody, she had enlisted help. Her personal assistant, a woman named Patricia, whom I'd seen at the courthouse, was executing Gertrude's plans with disturbing efficiency. The school board scheduled a formal hearing to review Gracie's fitness to teach. I attended as her advocate, watching as board members reviewed the anonymous allegations with furrowed brows. Gracie sat beside me, maintaining her composure despite the tears threatening to spill. She presented character references from colleagues, positive performance reviews, and testimonials from parents whose children adored her. The board voted to place her on administrative leave pending a full investigation. It was a blow, but not a fatal one. Gracie's principal pulled her aside afterward, assuring her he believed in her innocence but had to follow protocol. The lost income would hurt, especially with her husband still deployed, but we would fight this. More family members began receiving communications. Gracie's cousin called in tears after getting a letter claiming Gracie had stolen money from their grandmother's estate. Her aunt received photos of the twins with ominous messages about their safety. Each attack was carefully crafted to turn Gracie's support system against her, to isolate her just as Gertrude had done before. I documented everything meticulously. Every call, every letter, every slashed tire and dead flower. The investigator tracked Patricia's movements, building a pattern of harassment that we could present to authorities. But Gertrude was clever. Nothing could be definitively traced back to her, and Patricia always had alibis provided by other employees from Gertrude's company. The stress began affecting Gracie's health. She lost weight, dark circles forming under her eyes from sleepless nights spent checking on the twins every hour. Her postpartum depression, which had been improving, threatened to resurface under the constant pressure. I connected her with a therapist who specialized in harassment victims, someone who could help her process the trauma while we fought back legally. 3 weeks into the harassment campaign, Gracie's husband, Marcus, managed to secure emergency leave. His commanding officer, a parent himself, was horrified by the situation and expedited the paperwork. Marcus arrived home to find his wife a shadow of herself, jumping at every phone ring and checking the locks obsessively. His presence provided immediate relief. Marcus was a stabilizing force, taking night shifts with the twins so Gracie could sleep, screening calls, and installing security cameras around their modest home. He accompanied her to therapy sessions and held her when the weight of it all became too much. But Gertrude's campaign adapted. New allegations surfaced claiming Marcus was violent, that he had abandoned his family for the military, that the twins showed signs of abuse. These lies were even more outrageous than the previous ones, but they still required responses, still demanded energy to refute. I filed restraining orders against Patricia and several other identified participants in the harassment. Some were granted, others dismissed for lack of direct evidence. The legal system moved slowly, while Gracie's life unraveled in real time. Each small victory was met with 2 new attacks from unexpected angles. The investigation into my ethics complaint continued, requiring detailed responses to increasingly absurd allegations. Gertrude had apparently spent her time in custody, crafting elaborate theories about how I had orchestrated her downfall. She claimed I had planted evidence, bribed witnesses, and manipulated the court. The Bar Association investigators seemed skeptical, but they still had to follow procedure. Family relationships began fracturing under the pressure. Some relatives believed Gracie completely, rallying around her with fierce protectiveness. Others grew suspicious, wondering if perhaps there was some truth to the allegations. Why else would someone go to such lengths? The doubt crept in like poison, exactly as Gertrude had intended. The investigator called me with disturbing news. Patricia had been meeting with several of Gracie's former college friends, spreading stories about mental instability dating back years. She carried doctored photos and fabricated social media posts, painting a picture of someone who had always been unfit for motherhood. I love how she has alibis from other employees. Like what? Did they all sign up for the "Help Our Boss Destroy Her Sister from Jail" club with matching t-shirts? And poor Marcus comes home from serving his country to find his house turned into a fortress with security cameras everywhere, probably thinking he left one war zone for another. 2 of these friends reached out to Gracie afterward, confused and concerned, while others simply stopped returning her calls. Marcus discovered someone had been photographing their home at odd hours. The security cameras caught glimpses of figures in dark clothing, always careful to stay just out of clear view. We turned the footage over to police, but without faces or license plates, they could do little beyond increasing patrols in the neighborhood. The harassment expanded to Marcus's military connections. His unit received anonymous reports about domestic violence and child endangerment. His commanding officer, thankfully, recognized the campaign for what it was and stood by Marcus, but the allegations still went into his file, still required investigation by military police. I worked with Gracie to compile evidence of the systematic harassment. We created timelines, cross-referenced incidents, and built a clear pattern showing how each attack followed the same methodology. The investigator uncovered financial connections between Patricia and several other participants, all receiving payments from accounts linked to Gertrude's company. Child Protective Services arrived at Gracie's door one morning, responding to multiple anonymous reports. The social worker seemed sympathetic, but explained she had to follow protocol. She inspected the home, interviewed both parents, and observed their interactions with the twins. The visit went well, with the worker noting the obvious love and care in the household, but the very fact of the investigation added another layer of stress. Gracie's teaching colleagues organized a support campaign. They wrote letters to the school board defending her character and professionalism. Parents of her students started a petition demanding her reinstatement. The groundswell of support helped counter the anonymous allegations, but the investigation continued its slow pace. Patricia made a mistake. She approached one of Gracie's cousins at a coffee shop, not realizing the cousin was recording their conversation on her phone. Patricia offered money for damaging information about Gracie, claiming she was conducting research for a book about postpartum psychosis. The cousin immediately brought the recording to us. Armed with this evidence, I pushed for criminal charges against Patricia. The prosecutor agreed to investigate, though warned it might take time to build a solid case. Meanwhile, the harassment continued, though Patricia became more careful after learning about the recording. Gertrude's parents, who had initially stayed neutral, finally chose a side. They visited Gracie, appalled by what their elder daughter had orchestrated. They offered financial help and emotional support, sharing their own concerns about Gertrude's obsessive behavior over the years. Their testimony would prove valuable if we could bring criminal charges. The twins, now crawling and babbling, remained blissfully unaware of the chaos surrounding them. Gracie found strength in their innocent smiles and reaching arms. She established strict routines to maintain normalcy for them, even as her own world felt increasingly unstable. I discovered Patricia had been recruiting others to help with the harassment. She found people through online forums, offering small payments for simple tasks like making anonymous calls or leaving packages. Most participants didn't know the full scope of what they were involved in, thinking they were pranking someone who deserved it. The school board investigation dragged on. Gracie's principal privately expressed frustration with the process, believing she should be reinstated immediately. But bureaucracy moved at its own pace, and anonymous allegations, however baseless, required thorough examination. Marcus's presence continued to be a stabilizing force, but the strain showed on him too. He struggled with guilt about his deployment, wondering if his absence had made Gracie more vulnerable. I reminded them both that Gertrude had planned this long before Marcus left, that his service wasn't to blame for his sister-in-law's actions. New tactics emerged. Gracie's credit report showed inquiries from loan companies she'd never contacted. Someone had attempted to open credit cards in her name, though fortunately, the applications were flagged as potentially fraudulent. We added identity theft to our growing list of crimes to report. The therapist working with Gracie noted concerning signs. The constant stress was triggering symptoms similar to PTSD. Gracie startled at unexpected noises, experienced panic attacks when the phone rang, and struggled with intrusive thoughts about losing the twins. The therapist recommended increased sessions and possibly medication, though Gracie worried about any documentation that could be twisted against her. I coordinated with other lawyers who'd faced similar harassment campaigns. They shared strategies for protecting clients and building cases against orchestrated attacks. One suggested hiring a reputation management firm to combat the online aspects of the smear campaign, which had begun appearing on social media and anonymous forums. Patricia's network grew bolder. Gracie found her car vandalized with scratches, spelling out cruel messages. Marcus caught someone trying to access their mailbox late at night. The twins' daycare received calls questioning the safety of the children, though the director, familiar with the family, dismissed them immediately. The investigator made a breakthrough. He traced payments from Gertrude's company accounts to a total of 12 individuals involved in various aspects of the harassment. The money trail was complex, routed through multiple accounts, but it established a clear pattern of paid persecution. Gracie's extended family began taking sides more definitively. Those who supported her formed a protective circle, offering babysitting, meal deliveries, and emotional support. Those who doubted her quietly distanced themselves, adding to her sense of isolation and betrayal. The Bar Association finally concluded their investigation into my ethics complaint, finding it completely without merit. They noted the complaint appeared to be retaliatory and referred it to prosecutors as potential evidence of continued harassment. It was a victory, but the months of defending myself had taken time and energy away from helping Gracie. Marcus intercepted a package addressed to Gracie containing disturbing Photoshop images of the twins. The psychological warfare was escalating, designed to trigger her maternal fears and protective instincts. We added it to our evidence collection, though Gracie couldn't bring herself to look at the images. The prosecutor assigned to investigate Patricia finally took action. She was arrested on charges of harassment, stalking, and conspiracy. Her bail was set high enough to keep her in custody temporarily, providing a brief respite from the daily attacks. But we knew Gertrude would simply recruit others to continue her campaign. Gracie's school board hearing finally arrived. She presented her case with dignity, surrounded by colleagues and parents who testified to her excellence as a teacher. The board seemed swayed by the support, but bureaucratic procedures required them to wait for the final investigative report before making a decision. The twins celebrated their first birthday during this chaos. Gracie insisted on a small party, determined to create happy memories despite everything. Watching her children smash cake and giggle, she found moments of pure joy that reminded her what she was fighting for. Patricia's arrest led to others coming forward. Several people she'd recruited realized they'd been manipulated and offered to testify about her methods. They described how she'd presented Gracie as a danger to children, showing them carefully edited photos and fabricated evidence to justify their participation. I filed civil suits against Patricia and Gertrude's company for the harassment campaign. While criminal charges were important, civil action could provide faster relief and financial compensation for the damage done. The company's lawyers immediately moved to distance the corporation from Patricia's actions, claiming she acted independently. Gertrude, still awaiting trial for the original custody scheme, somehow continued orchestrating attacks from jail. Phone records showed she'd been in regular contact with multiple individuals, though the conversations were carefully coded. The prosecutor added witness tampering and obstruction charges to her case. The financial strain on Gracie and Marcus intensified. Legal fees, therapy costs, security measures, and lost income from her suspension created mounting pressure. Gracie's parents helped where they could, as did Marcus's family, but the couple struggled to make ends meet while fighting on multiple fronts. A breakthrough came when one of Gertrude's fertility clinic employees approached me. She'd witnessed Gertrude planning the harassment campaign before her arrest, discussing contingency plans if the custody scheme failed. The employee had stayed silent out of fear, but couldn't watch Gracie suffer any longer. This testimony proved crucial. It established premeditation and showed Gertrude had prepared for exactly this scenario. The prosecutor used it to argue for denying Gertrude bail when it came up for review, successfully keeping her incarcerated while awaiting trial. The school board finally reached their decision. After months of investigation, they found no merit to the anonymous allegations and voted to reinstate Gracie immediately. She returned to her classroom to find it decorated with welcome back signs from her students. Their innocent enthusiasm helped heal some of the wounds from the ordeal, but the attacks didn't stop entirely. With Patricia in custody and Gertrude's communications restricted, the harassment became less coordinated, but didn't disappear. Occasional anonymous letters still arrived. Strange cars still drove slowly past their house. The fear remained, even as its sources diminished. I worked with prosecutors to build comprehensive cases against all identified participants. Some accepted plea deals, testifying about their recruitment and payments. Others maintained innocence, claiming they'd acted independently out of concern for the children. The legal process would take months more to fully resolve. Gracie began rebuilding relationships damaged by the campaign. Some family members apologized for doubting her, while others remained distant, the seeds of suspicion too deeply planted. She learned to accept that not all relationships relationships could be salvaged, focusing instead on those who'd stood by her. The twins thrived despite the chaos surrounding them. They took their first steps, spoke their first words, and developed distinct personalities. Gracie documented every milestone, determined to prove she was the devoted mother she'd always been, not the monster Gertrude had tried to paint. Marcus received orders for his next deployment, but successfully appealed for deferment given the family's circumstances. The military showed understanding of their situation, granting him extended time to ensure his family's stability before returning to service. As Patricia's trial approached, more evidence emerged about the scope of the harassment network. She'd kept detailed records, perhaps planning to use them as leverage against Gertrude eventually. These documents provided a roadmap of the entire campaign, implicating dozens of participants in various roles. The civil suits progressed slowly but steadily. Gertrude's company, facing potential liability, offered a settlement to avoid trial. I advised Gracie to consider it carefully. The money would help offset their losses and provide security, but accepting might limit their ability to pursue further action. The twins having their first birthday party in the middle of all this drama is perfect timing. Nothing says, "We're fine, everything's fine," like babies destroying cake while their aunt sits in jail plotting from behind bars like some discount villain who can't even afford a proper evil lair anymore. Gracie's therapy sessions showed progress. She developed coping mechanisms for the anxiety and learned to differentiate between real threats and trauma responses. The therapist praised her resilience while acknowledging the long road to full recovery ahead. The investigator discovered something that changed everything. Patricia had been using a second phone registered to a fake name, and the digital forensics expert managed to recover deleted messages between her and Gertrude. The conversations revealed not just the harassment campaign, but something far more sinister. Gertrude had been planning to have someone snatch the twins during one of Gracie's panic attacks. I immediately took this evidence to the prosecutor. Within hours, additional charges were filed against both Gertrude and Patricia for conspiracy to commit kidnapping. The judge revoked Gertrude's bail entirely, ensuring she would remain in custody until trial. Patricia's bail was increased to an amount her family couldn't afford. Marcus installed additional security measures around their home. Motion-activated lights covered every angle of the property. He changed all the locks and added reinforced deadbolts. The twins' bedroom windows received special locks that could only be opened from inside. He took leave from his military duties to stay home full-time, his commanding officer granting an indefinite family emergency extension. The harassment network began collapsing. Without Patricia coordinating and Gertrude unable to communicate freely, the paid participants scattered. Several approached me directly, offering information in exchange for leniency. They revealed the full scope of the operation. Fake social media accounts, hired actors to follow Gracie, even someone paid to apply for credit cards in her name. Gracie's parents took decisive action. They hired their own attorney and filed a restraining order against their elder daughter, publicly choosing Gracie's side. Her mother gave a deposition describing Gertrude's lifelong pattern of manipulation and control. Her father provided financial records showing how Gertrude had tried to buy their loyalty over the years. The school board expedited their final decision. Faced with mounting evidence of the harassment campaign and overwhelming support from parents and colleagues, they voted unanimously to reinstate Gracie with back pay. She returned to find her classroom exactly as she'd left it, her students rushing to hug her legs. I worked with the prosecutor to consolidate all charges. The evidence painted a clear picture of systematic persecution designed to destroy Gracie's life and steal her children. We had financial records, digital communications, witness testimony, and Patricia's own detailed notes documenting every attack. Marcus's military unit rallied around him. Fellow service members who were parents themselves organized meal deliveries and offered to help with home repairs. His commanding officer personally called to assure him that his record would reflect the truth of the situation, not the false allegations. The twins began walking, taking tentative steps between their parents. Gracie captured every moment on video, building a library of memories that proved the loving home she provided. Their first words were "Mama" and "Dada," spoken within days of each other, bringing tears of joy after months of fear. Gertrude's company faced internal turmoil. Board members, learning about her use of company resources for the harassment campaign, voted to terminate her employment and pursue recovery of misused funds. Her professional reputation crumbled as word spread through the pharmaceutical industry about her actions. The criminal trials began with Patricia. Faced with overwhelming evidence and the prospect of significant prison time, she accepted a plea deal. She testified about Gertrude's detailed instructions, the payment structure, and the recruitment of others. Her testimony revealed that Gertrude had been planning this for years, long before the twins were even born. Family members who had doubted Gracie came forward with apologies. Her cousin organized a family gathering to show support, bringing together relatives who had been divided by Gertrude's lies. They shared stories of their own encounters with Gertrude's manipulation over the years, finally seeing the pattern clearly. I filed additional civil suits on Gracie's behalf. Beyond seeking damages from Gertrude and her company, we pursued claims against every identified participant in the harassment. Most settled quickly, providing financial compensation that helped offset the family's mounting debts from legal fees and security measures. The prosecutor offered Gertrude a plea deal, 15 years in prison with possibility of parole after 10. She refused, insisting on trial and maintaining her innocence despite overwhelming evidence. Her attorney tried various defense strategies, but none could explain away the documented conspiracy. Gracie's therapy sessions focused on reclaiming her sense of safety. She practiced breathing exercises for the panic attacks and developed strategies for managing triggers. The therapist noted significant improvement as the external threats diminished and Gracie's support system strengthened. Marcus received permanent reassignment to a local military installation. His superiors recognized the exceptional family circumstances and approved his request to remain close to home. He would be able to continue his service while being present for his family's recovery. The daycare center where the twins spent their days implemented new security protocols. The director, having witnessed the harassment attempts, installed cameras and required photo identification for anyone picking up children. Other parents appreciated the increased safety measures. Gertrude's trial lasted 2 weeks. The prosecution presented a methodical case showing premeditation, conspiracy, and attempted kidnapping. I testified about discovering the adoption scheme, and Gracie bravely took a stand to describe the impact on her family. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. The verdict came down on a Thursday afternoon, guilty on all counts. counts: conspiracy to commit kidnapping, fraud, harassment, stalking, and witness tampering. The judge scheduled sentencing for the following month, but made clear that significant prison time awaited. Gertrude showed no emotion as officers led her away. Patricia received 5 years in prison as part of her plea agreement. Others involved in the harassment received probation and community service, along with restraining orders preventing any contact with Gracie's family. The network that had terrorized them for months was finally dismantled completely. The civil settlements provided enough money for Gracie and Marcus to pay off their debts and establish college funds for the twins. They kept the amounts modest, seeking justice rather than windfall profits. The financial security allowed them to focus on healing rather than survival. Gracie returned to teaching with renewed passion. Her students, young enough to be unaware of the drama, simply welcomed back their beloved teacher. She found peace in the routine of lesson plans and story time, the normalcy she had fought so hard to preserve. The extended family dynamics shifted permanently. Those who had supported Gracie formed closer bonds, while those who had doubted her maintained polite but distant relationships. Gertrude's parents visited regularly, building the grandparent relationship that Gertrude's actions had nearly destroyed. Marcus transformed their spare bedroom into a home office, where he could work on military administrative duties while being present for his family. The arrangement allowed him to continue serving while prioritizing his role as husband and father. His presence provided the stability Gracie needed to fully heal. The twins flourished in their secure environment. They developed distinct personalities, one outgoing and adventurous, the other thoughtful and observant. Gracie documented their growth meticulously, not from fear anymore, but from joy. Every milestone was celebrated without the shadow of potential loss. I closed Gracie's file with mixed emotions. The case had consumed over a year of intense work, but seeing her family thriving made every late night worthwhile. She sent me photos of the twins on their second birthday, their faces covered in chocolate cake, surrounded by family who had chosen love over manipulation. The prosecutor pursued additional charges against others who had participated in the harassment. Most pled guilty to minor charges, receiving probation and fines. The message was clear. Orchestrated campaigns to destroy someone's life would face serious consequences. Gracie's school recognized her resilience with a special award at the end-of-year ceremony. She accepted it graciously, thanking her colleagues for their unwavering support. The standing ovation from parents and fellow teachers marked her complete reintegration into the community Gertrude had tried to turn against her. Marcus's military unit honored him for balancing service with extraordinary family challenges. His story became an informal case study in supporting service members facing domestic crises. He used his experience to advocate for better family support resources within the military structure. The twins started preschool at age 3, confident and well-adjusted children. Gracie walked them to their classroom that first day without fear, knowing the threats were behind bars or bound by restraining orders. Their teachers reported they were social, happy children who played well with others. Gertrude received 25 years in prison at her sentencing. The judge cited the calculated nature of her crimes and the devastating impact on innocent children. She would be eligible for parole in 15 years, but her life as she knew it was over. Her pharmaceutical license was revoked, her assets liquidated to pay civil judgments. The family found their new normal. Marcus completed his military commitment while working locally. Gracie taught full-time, loving her work with young children. The twins grew surrounded by love and security, unaware of how close they'd come to being stolen. Occasional therapy sessions helped process residual trauma, but life moved forward. Looking at the twins playing in their backyard, Gracie felt profound gratitude. They'd survived an orchestrated campaign designed to destroy their family. The scars remained, but no longer defined them. She watched her children chase butterflies, their laughter filling the air, and knew that maternal love had triumphed over manipulation and greed. The battle was won, the war was over, and her family was whole. 25 years in prison. Wow, well deserved. That is all for this story. If you want to see more, please subscribe.